Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. It's a beautiful day today here in Rain Country, and we've been doing a lot of garden cleanup. I thought it was time for a garden update anyway. Not a whole lot to show as far as growing things, though the blueberries are starting to get a little further along. It's just slow growing right now because the weather's been real cold, but they're growing. I've seen a couple of tiny buds starting to show up on the grapevines, but nothing worth zooming in on. One of the things I wanted to show you is these bricks that we got from a project where a house was being remodeled, and so they were getting rid of all these bricks, so we grabbed them, got them for free, and Mr. Rain laid these down to give us a place to step down, because in the winter, late fall, winter, early spring, this section right here off the steps is just one big mud hole. Now in the summertime, it dries out enough that grass actually grows into most of this area here, including that area over there that looks just like, well, it was a mud hole, and it was, but it will get grass growing back in it, and eventually, I don't know, maybe we'll put brick or something, or gravel or something down there for the winter time to make it nicer for walking through there. The other thing I want to show you is some of the other brick we got is this stuff right here, and from the same project. And so Mr. Rain is boxing in the other two sides of the garden. A couple years ago he boxed in that side over there and that side over there, and so now he's using those bricks to finally box it in here. So this slowly over time, with everything building up in here and us throwing compost and grass clippings and straw and leaves and horse manure, it's been getting taller and taller, and the everything's been creeping out into the yard out here, so Mr. Rain had to pull the rototiller out. He finally got to play with his rototiller. He was so happy. But just so he could till this out and work this area and then get it nice and flat for laying these bricks. And then what I plan on doing inside the bricks, and that's why this has all this dirt in here, is I'm going to be planting some flowers, herbs, whatnot. I think this would be a really good place to plant some marigold along the border to help keep certain pests out of the garden. So that's what's going on there. And as far as the way that I garden, what I do is a little different than a lot of people. We don't have a compost pile, and we don't really have room for one. We have such a limited space to work with here in our I can't even say 1/3 acre, because this is just a small, this backyard garden is just a small portion of our 1/3 acre, because this property at one time, where the greenhouse is there, and that big 1,200 square foot shop is, and then the parking lot on the other side of that used to all be yard. And the shop was built before we moved in here. And then Mr. Rain rebuilt this deck, put in the steps. I mean, this all used to be yard too at one time. That all used to be yard. But at least the greenhouse, when it was put in many years ago, that was our first real growing area. Aside from many years ago, we had a greenhouse way over there where the chicken coop and playhouse is. But anyway, the way I do things is probably a little unconventional, very unconventional. I don't have a name for it, because it's just what I do. I don't follow any set garden thing. I look things up, I learn about stuff now and then, but for the most part I just do what I can with what I have. So the white stuff you see is either ashes from the wood stove, or it's lime that I've thrown out here, because there's only two things I buy occasionally for the garden, and that is blood meal for my blueberries and other berries, and then lime for pretty much everything else. The blood meal is getting to be pretty unnecessary now, though, that we have the chickens, because they give us, you know, lots of good high nitrogen fertilizer there. And so what we've been doing is, ever since we've had the chickens, we've just once they got big enough, we've just let them roam around the garden and roam around, and all winter and fall they've been digging this up and, you know, dropping their poop in there and just really fertilizing it good and keeping it tilled up. And one thing I have found that has just been really, really great, that I'm loving about having these chickens, is not only are they eating all the slug eggs and the baby slugs, which has been one of the biggest banes to our garden. The other big bane to our garden is buttercup. Well, you won't see any buttercup out here right now, or really not much grass, because the chickens have kept it tilled up. And so it's been so easy for me to just come pull it up. The only things they've left alone, thankfully, have been the garlic and my feverfew. And some of my herbs. I think they've been pecking at the echinacea and the marshmallow, so I have little cages around those for now. But we will be closing in the whole garden. We were going to do cattle panels. I think I mentioned that in the last garden update video. But the cattle panels we looked at were just too wide for keeping, the holes were too wide for keeping the chickens out. So we got something else. And so Mr. Rain just said the cattle panels aren't entirely off the table. So I don't know, maybe we'll use them after all, but we'll have to get some where the chickens can't get through. All this barren ugliness right now, all this hard work that we're doing to clean everything up. I'll show you some pictures right here of how my garden has looked over the past couple of years. And that there is the payoff we get for all of this work. And I'm hoping now with the chickens, keeping the slugs at bay and giving us some great fertilizer for our garden, and just, oh man, I'm just loving these chickens. They're great for more than just their eggs. That, you know, we may even see some better produce coming out of this year. But yeah, we do have to, it's getting close to that time where we're going to have to close everything in. Keep the chickens out of there, so once we start planting those beans, peas, and everything else, and all the other herbs start coming up, that they're not tearing everything to shreds. And then this right here that you see starting to grow, that's one of my catnips. That's my biggest catnip. And then this is a goji berry. I'm not sure if it will come back. Last year I didn't think it was going to come back, but it did, but it never got berries. But I do have one out front that got berries. Now I will be going over my other garden areas, like the front garden area, and what I'm going to be growing in there. And in my west herb garden area, I'll go over that in future videos. It'll just be too long for me to do all that right now. So be watching for those down the road. And then here is our brush pile. Garden stuff, old boards and whatnot. We got to get burned up. Hello, Claire. It's my pretty Claire. It's my sweet bird. This is my sweet one. She talks to me and follows me around. Anyway, I wanted to show you right here. This is another volunteer feverfew, and I'm not going to let this one stay here. I'm just leaving it for now. I have some people that are wanting some feverfew. I'm just going to dig these up and give them. Yeah, I've got a couple I'll dig up and give to them, and a couple others I'll probably replant in other places, because I found out after about 2-3 years the feverfew just tends to die, the original plant, but it self-seeds so easily that there's usually several more plants coming up in its place, so it's just not a big deal. Mr. Rain just cleaned this out yesterday and took all the stuff out of this. We had to spread leaves and hay and all kinds of stuff in here and let the chickens break it down over in compost as well, kitchen scraps, lettuces and whatnot. Let the chickens eat it, break it down, and then he just dug a bunch of it out and put it out on the garden, mostly in areas where we know we're going to be growing things that love a nice acidic soil, like right there. I'm going to put some more corn, and over here with the potatoes. Okay, now back in here, looks like I need to refill their outside water dish. They tipped it over again. I found it easier just to give them just to open containers for water dishes and just fill them every day or twice a day even, rather than the self-water thing like we have this. We got this for $1 at a garage sale, and we got the water one too. the pet feeder, pet water. But even with this, I find it best just to put a little bit of feed in there each day rather than filling it all the way up unless we're going to be gone for a while, because they make such a mess. And that's not what you think it is down there. This is reclaimed roofing material, you know, like for a shed or whatever. We got for free again, and that's like tar or paint or something, all that black stuff. So anyway, the other side of that is our fence. And so we converted what's right above us is the old playhouse that he had built for the kids years ago. And then before the weather got really cold, because those are just board slats. So he took this free tin roofing stuff that we got and just put it up there to help keep any drafts from coming in through here. But we did leave this open, and we do try to keep it nicer looking on that side since it's the neighbor side, just so we can keep some air ventilation. The chickens, they love it right there, right in front of that. Even in the coldest part of the year, they'll sleep right in front of that open area. You know, they could go over here where it's a little more protected, but they don't mind it. Buff Orpingtons, they can handle cold pretty well. And then their chicken boxes, you know, their nesting boxes over there. Mr. Rain built all of this, and I've got a video showing a time lapse of him building this whole thing, and I'll go ahead and link to it up there in the corner. But I want to show you what I've been doing in here, and I'm finding I like this best. With Mr. Rain's different wood projects, like making noodle boards and cutting boards and different things, he's been getting some good hard wood to do that. And so it's been great because I've had these wonderful shavings to throw in here. And I'm finding that keeping this stirred up daily has really been keeping the smell down and just keeping it a lot nicer. Huh, Claire? Yeah? Yeah? You'd like to talk to me, huh? You're my sweet girl. All right, there, I shut the door, so if you're new, you can kind of see what it looks like from this side. My son's girlfriend made us this cute little sign here. But Mr. Rain did all this, put all these windows in, built this whole thing, built the door. He even built this metal latch right here for both that and for this gate that he built here. And we have videos of him making both of these. They're each one's a little bit different from the other. Cody, stay out of the chicken coop. So we'll open that door back up. I've got the windows in there along the side opened up so we can get a good breeze going through there and just air it out really good, dry everything out in there, and just keep it nice for the chickie birds. Chickie birds. Well, let me back up so you can see. There's the playhouse right up there. Right now it's just not being used for anything. Possibly future grandbabies though, so that's why we kept it and decided to just put the chicken coop right underneath it. And then one thought we had last year, I was growing squash and beans on the cattle panels here, and then my potatoes I grow in the middle. But we're thinking we may even at some point just close this in and have another greenhouse here. Because it would be, you know, where we're at, it would be great just to have more places to grow things like tomatoes and peppers and things that like hotter, drier climates. And then right here in this section is the area where Mr. Rain is thinking that if we ever do we were initially thinking of getting some new chickens this year, some chicks, but we thought we'd wait one more year. And he's thinking about building just a smaller enclosure here for when we get new chickens, we can have them run around in here for a while and until the chickens all get used to each other. And all this mess over here, you usually never see me show, but this is usually where we stack our firewood. But right now it's full of lumber for different projects we've got going on. I don't know how many people have their little hillbilly piles around, which a good friend of mine likes to call them. Hillbilly bombs. Because projects. But normally this whole section here along this fence would be full of firewood. But because there's a couple things going on, because one, he's going to plan on extending that out for another chicken area, and because we're going to finish building the fence taller all the way across between us and the neighbors for more privacy for both sides. Chickie birds. More cleanup process going on over here. This is where my raspberries are. Mr. Rain just took this old window apart, and that's what these scraps are here. He just did that because we collect windows and sliding glass doors when we can get them. But anyway, this is my my not so happy looking raspberries right now because they really haven't started growing. There is some new growth. One thing I've found has been kind of handy with the chickens is they've been good at getting in there and getting the dead canes dug out. And then here's a couple more windows and a sliding glass door because the plan was to use these for another greenhouse. So we got them for free, didn't cost us anything, but now we're not sure if we want to go with the idea that we had, but at least we didn't pay anything for them. They're just kind of an eyesore now. Chicken birds. Are you keeping things stirred up out here? Okay, another thing I wanted to talk about that I never thought to mention, no one's actually asked, and I'm surprised they haven't. Some people may wonder why this area here we have not utilized for garden, which I would love to do. However, as you can see, septic tank, and then right over here is a drain field. And so we're really limited on what we can do back here right now. And then of course back there where there's water lines, and then there's our fire pit, and we got to have at least a little room to hang out back here and to walk around, of course. And the greenhouse is still in process of cleanup just like everything else. And I want to show you what's happening here. The greenhouse is where I grow all my peppers and tomatoes. It's the only place I'll grow, and cucumbers. I'd hope to find a cucumber someday that'll grow well outside. Again, I've got more lime tossed down there. Anyway, you can see my little peach tree is starting to bloom. And I was really wanting to get it out of here this year. And the reason I stuck the little dwarf peach tree in here is because it came up from California, and I didn't know if it would do well outside in our climate. And I wanted to get it out of here before it started blooming, but it started blooming sooner than I expected because their peach tree out front isn't even looking like this yet. It's getting little buds on it, but it's not getting any green on it yet. So the question then, even though this is so small, still is where do we put it? Even in our front yard yet, there's still no real great place for it. So one idea we had is to put it right about where that chicken is right there, or was, you know, and then just keep it real small. I think it might do better. It gets peaches every year, but they never fully ripen, and I think it's just because they get overshadowed by the tomatoes and peppers and other things that are growing in there and don't get enough sun. Mr. Rain, working hard.
Little spurts.
Little spurts?
Little spurts of energy here.
Yeah. I was going to hang my laundry outside today, but since our laundry, our clothesline's right there, we didn't want it in Mr. Rain's way, so it's hanging inside. Still got a little fire going in there, but it's pretty warm out here right now. One of the other things I wanted to show you in my greenhouse is these are my little, I mean, they're kind of ugly, and this is because the chickens, I had them sitting down kind of low, and the chickens came here and pecked it all apart, so I've got this little bubble wrap shoved in here to, you know, help keep it warmer. But this is where, and these is where I'm starting my different seeds. There's nothing really coming up yet because I only just got things going, but my tomatoes, my peppers, I've got some, I've also got a couple of herbs like valerian and ashwagandha. And then in here I also got the red sweet Marconi peppers, the seeds that I got from Jen. Thank you, Jen. I'm actually trying them this year. Hopefully they'll do good for me. And so this is my method of growing seed. I don't start them. I don't use added heat. I don't use added light. I just do the greenhouse within the greenhouse method with these old cheap $2 coolers and a couple pieces of Lexan to go over the top. And just then when it gets, if it gets really cold at night, I grab this big bubble wrap here and throw it over the top of this just to give it even more insulation to keep it nice and warm in there. And that way I can do this without using any electricity. And I have more videos on this last year, and last year I tried this and it just worked wonderfully, and I got I think I did it last 2 years, and the tomato seeds I got in there were amazing. So anyway, you can watch some of the videos from last year, or you can just wait and see how things go this year on that. That's another volunteer feverfew coming up in that pot, and another one right next to it. And yes, I just kind of threw lime everywhere. Now this area, that's where I store my steaks and stuff when I'm not using them. And I know the last video I did came out here and they were all spread out because I can't keep them stacked. The chickens keep moving them around. It's amazing to me what the chickens can do. But this section, if you saw that one video where I was over here, there was a flattened football in there, and that's because 2 summers ago this was closed off and we had this be the section where the puppies could come outside and play while Mr. Rain was rebuilding the fence over there. He had to take down the whole fence and rebuild it, and the puppies were just tiny, so we couldn't have them running loose. But this is the thornless blackberry that I am sure is grown through the pot by now, and it's not really where I want it to stay. I still haven't figured out where, but one of these days we're either gonna have to get rid of it or figure out what to do. Finally figure out a place for it. But anyway, over here was where I was growing my strawberries for the past several years, and you can see there's still a strawberry plant. I've taken most of them out. I did leave that one. The problem I have now is because of the grapevines on this side. When they get big, they overshadow everything in this section here. And so the strawberries don't get enough sun. So I've decided what I'm going to do is probably go ahead and have strawberries in these top pots that get a little bit more sun, but down at the bottom they don't get any in by midsummer, mid to late summer. So I think I'm just going to put lettuces in there because lettuces don't mind some shade. We only have 3 great plants, but those 3 give us quite a bit, and one of them just goes across here and then all up in there, and then they all kind of interweave up here and then go all the way across to the other side of the deck. Let me show you from this angle. So yeah, these grapevines they all interweave and just go all the way around the deck now, and I love it when this all fills in and that whole area up there is just nice and private for us. So, and yes, the deck needs cleanup too. We're working on it all. Why we can. We get so few nice days, so we try to get as much as we can on these nice days. So that's my garden update for now, and stay tuned. There'll be much more coming with the herbs and the things that are growing, and hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.